Okay, we're going to have a easy scene stamp along type of thing, and it will be an easy stamp along version of this full page hybrid ink on matte paper underwater scene, okay? What you're going to need is well, we're going to do this on glossy, so I know a lot of you have glossy at this point in time. We're going to use a quarter page glossy cardstock. That's the thing that'll make it really easy and fast. And then what we're going to do is I want you to grab some dye-based inks, and if you have 3 of them, that would be great. Mix and match a distress ink, tumbled glass. A lot of you are familiar with distress inks. Tumbled glass, mermaid lagoon would be great. Any number of them, okay? Stampin' Up pads. But this is what I want you to do. I want you to go for kind of a light, medium, and dark version of them, okay? You're going to need those. The stamps we're going to use are Brookside Boulders. If you have some kind of rock like that that you can kind of build a sea shelf with, that'd be great. And I'm going to use these 2 right here. Twisting leaves, large and small, okay? This one's 274G, this one's 275D. You can use one or the other, or if you have some kind of foliage that could, kind of double as a sea plant, go ahead and try that one. And then I have this little salmon right here, okay? So that's going to be my little kind of focal point in the scene. If you have a mermaid or, other types of fish underwater, not like a jumping bass, jumping out of the water, probably not something like that. I guess you could, I don't know. But let's start with that, okay? Now you have your range of tones. I threw in the Prussian blue in here as well, okay? If you don't have that, that's fine. And like I said, Memento inks, Distress, Stampin' Up, whatever. Most of you are going to have, a collection of dye-based inks, and blues are quite common, something to have like 3 different blues. You can mix and match all of them, okay? All right, so let's start off with this. I'm just going with the Marvies. Mementos would be good too, but on this one right here, it's just so easy to do. It's not really going to matter too much. Okay, you're going from, let's just choose this left-hand corner as our kind of source of light. Okay, now here's the thing that you're going to do, though. You're going to streak down and kind of have things just generally emanated. It doesn't have to be right exactly that point right there, okay? I'm kind of going down here, so not everything is always coming from that, but just in that direction, though, okay? Kind of drag down like this, okay? And leave some areas a little bit lighter, okay? Kind of fill in pretty good with this first ink, though, but don't fill everything in where you just don't see any streaks at all anymore, okay? Leave some of the streaks, okay? Not a lot of them, though, because we're going to be retaining some lighter streaks using the darker tones, too. But here's what I want you to do. Upper right, bottom left, kind of give those areas a pretty good fill in. They could have some streaks in it too, but I'm not going to put too much of them, okay? All right, so then it's a touch streaky there, but these 2 areas right here are going to kind of frame the scene off, okay? But do you see where I have some of those lighter tones of the swipe in that area, okay? It's because I'm getting this kind of tapered kind of motion going on, so it's a little bit wetter, drier right here, like that. Not here and up. I'm kind of using a swiping motion like this, okay? See how I'm coming up like that? So that's all we'll do, okay? And this is very comfortable for my hand, okay? Go ahead and pull your hand too, and then swipe maybe. Keep it nice and ergonomic. Don't, stress out your shoulder or anything like that. See, my hands naturally go this direction. I'm not doing it this way, or, you know what I mean? I'm just keeping my hands naturally fall this way, okay? So you just keep it nice and ergonomic, and that'll give you a nice smooth application of this. If you're not getting it at first, don't worry about it. You'll get it by the third color, you know, or something like that. Just stay with it. And I'm not going like this, here, 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 here. See how I'm kind of just staying in one area? I'm spreading it around a little bit. The streak right here, I'm just kind of staying in there for quite a few strokes, okay? We're almost there, and that's just one color. Okay, now, with this next color, what I want you to do is use it a touch more sparingly. Get a good feel of what that's going to look like, okay? So I'm starting it up here in my darker area. The wetter it gets, the less ink you're applying sometimes because you're kind of going wet into wet. The paper's not absorbing the ink as fast, okay? All right, so kind of keep it nice and light. Now I'm using kind of a lighter touch now too, okay? I want a little bit of a transition from that solid to that wet. See, I'm a little bit heavy right here. So I'll just kind of blend that in a touch, okay? I'll keep that in mind for these future rays here. See, now I'm using it down here and I'm using kind of a lighter touch. So you have to adjust, depending on the color of your ink, how much ink you've used underneath and how wet your pad is, okay? I don't know how much ink is on your pad, so you know that's going to determine the amount of ink or the rate at which the ink comes off of your applicator right here, okay? Easy stuff with the paper towel. Okay, here's what's going through my mind. I probably should have left that a little bit lighter in that area, you know, where the light is coming from. But it's not going to be a big deal, though, okay? All right, that's it on that one. Let's go to this darker one. I don't know. I'm going to come this way, actually. I'm going to come in here and fill in a lot of this bottom area, okay? Or some of it. I thought that's a little bit too light down there, so what we have is this now. So I came up here. I figured maybe the beams of light will be a little bit lighter up that way, where the light is coming from, and then it'll dissipate down this way a little bit. This is kind of a visual of what I'm talking about right here. We're going to add in the pigment beams, though. Okay. All right, so we're on our dark blue. Same thing. Test it out. Okay. Use it a little bit more sparingly. Okay. Now see, I'm going to leave that in there. So I put the dark right next to it. Now I've kind of recovered a little bit of a lighter beam in there. It's the same color of blue that was always there. We didn't make it lighter, but it just looks lighter because we have a dark color right next to it. Okay, bottom left. Okay, kind of filling that in a little bit. Kind of tapering it up a touch. I'm not worried about getting super smooth streaks. I try to get it as smooth as I can, but if I don't get it, I'm not really worried about it at all. Okay, so we have something like that. All right. Remember, you don't use as much of your darker tone as you do in your lighter ones, okay? Kind of use a little bit more sparingly because we're kind of creating that transition. I'm going to go ahead and go in with my Prussian blue a little bit. Okay. Okay. Yeah, something like that. All right. We're on black now. Look at my paper towel. It's still working. It's a pretty good wad of it. It's like finger painting. Okay. Darker tones. I'm going to start off in that corner and kind of just work it in a little bit. Don't go in too fast though, because it's a lot of ink stays on here because the paper is starting to get really quite wet. So it's not transferring as fast. So you can really kind of add a lot of it down there. It's almost, the sensation is almost like you're wiping off ink at times. Like if I go into this right here where there's a lot of ink, if I go like this, it's kind of a lighter color because I'm kind of removing ink off. So that being said, if I want to add more, I have to kind of dab it on there and let it build up because if I wipe it, I'm kind of wiping ink off a little bit. So sometimes my technique is kind of dabbing down like this and then kind of wiping in. All right, so let's go from the bottom a little bit too. All right, so we have that. We're going to keep things pretty simple. I'm not going to add too much complexity in terms of my details, being that this is kind of a quick scene. Stamp along. All right, grab your black pad and grab your rocks, whatever type of rocks you might have. I am going to, you can put a rock disc down at the base if you want to. I tend to think that it's kind of cool to build a little bit of a shelf kind of on the sea floor, okay? So I'm going to take this, I'm going to go at a bit of an angle with this stamp. And this is Brookside Boulders. All right. Like so. Look at that light that's on it because that kind of oscillation of light, dark, light, dark. I really love the way this looks. I mean, that to me it does look quite kind of underwater in spirit. Okay, get that little space right there. I'm going to fill in. Brookside Boulders is a really good blending image. You can really just stack and stack. So here we have that kind of rising up from the deep. All right, clean off your rock. I know someone on the Facebook group used ledge, and her scene looked fantastic. She had all kinds of different colors in there too, maybe like sea fans and corals. There were some reds, I believe. Okay, let's transition this. Let's get a little bit more depth. Let's go to our darker blue. Okay, it's kind of like a navy blue. Now, I didn't bother cleaning this off too much, but I'm going to ink it up with my dark blue. Okay, use your paper towel now. And just kind of wipe off the bottom portion of it. I'm going about a ½ inch in here, and I'm transitioning it up a little bit, so it's going from really dry, a little bit less dry, to pretty wet up there. Okay, so it's going to go from dark to light when I stamp out the print, okay? And that'll give us a little bit more depth. Now, where I overlap into these rocks over here, I'll just kind of wipe that off. You could mask these off and just stamp it like that too, but I'm not even going to bother. Okay? So I'll get that one down there. And now you have this more distant. Doesn't that look like it's farther in the distance? It's because you used a color out of your color scheme to stamp that out down there. And see how it kind of just transitions down there from darker to light? That's what you get when you kind of wipe off your stamps that way. And that's also in Stampscapes U in terms of the lighting imagery concept. It's just a simple little tweak. When you kind of wipe off some of your images before you stamp them out, it looks like light is hitting it. So you get a really good head start in terms of your lighting schemes. All right. All right. Let's see. Let's go ahead and stamp out our kelp, sea kelp. I guess this. I don't know. I think I want to go for a little bit of green on that, if I might. Okay. I know I just said the three blues, what you can do, but what I'm going to do now, a lot of you aren't going to have the Marvy or some sort of dye-based marker type of thing, watercolor pens, but if you do, what I did was I colored in black over this. Now, if you want to, you can, let's see, I'm going to add a little, see if I can add a little hint of green. This is like an olive green right here, olive brown it's called. You can use any kind of green. You can use a much brighter green if you want to, like a Christmas green. But I'm going in and I'm kind of just highlighting some of these tips with this color. It may affect it, it may not. You know, sometimes I color it in, then I stamp it out, and it still looks just all completely black. But I feel that this will give it a chance for a little bit of variation. But let's go in and see. It just depends on how wet your pen is, and how much kind of ink you blend into that inked up surface of this stamp. Okay. I'm holding it down a little bit longer. We have a lot of ink that's been applied to our scene already, okay? And this is a pretty solid type of image here, so I don't want it to come off like a vacuum. But yeah, so we got a little touch of that green in there. Isn't that fun? It's just a little taste of some color. You know, it'd look good in black too, but just that little bit of contrast is kind of nice. Okay, so you go black, hitting some of these with a little bit of green. This branch right here would look great with like some fairy types of imagery in the background because it puts you in like a worm's eye view of that world. Okay, so I'm going to have this one coming from above. I'm kind of just stamping this portion, so it's probably about 45% of the design, roughly. Not too much of it. All right. So we have something like that. It's like we're like a diver in this scene now or something. And here's the smaller version. If you want to do this, you can. If you don't have kind of a smaller version, you don't have to do this type of thing, but this will give us a touch of... Now I inked this one up with that darker blue, so this is a smaller version of it. I'm going to put it in the distance. I think I'm going to actually blot it off a little bit first. And I tell you what, I'm going to... Yeah. I'm going to mask off this rock right here. You can put this wherever you want. If I can put it behind, I can put it behind this rock by masking off that back rock. I can have it in back of this front rock here if I want to. So you have like a little bit of sea kelp coming from in front of and in back of that rock, and that kind of sandwiches it into the scene a little bit more. I like that there, but I tell you what, let's do this. That was a lighter version of that kelp. Here's a darker version. I just inked it up in black, hitting this with a little bit of this green. So let's go for 2 tones of this smaller branch in here, okay? Twisting leaves. I'll mask this off again right here. I'm not trying to stamp exactly over that first impression. I'm kind of doing it to the side, and that gives us that little bit of depth. You have a darker one and a lighter one right there, but look how it looks in here. Okay? Okay, now we have our fish. Our fish are going to be, if I stamp them dark, they'll look a little bit closer to us. So if I stamp them light, they'll be farther off in the distance. Let's do something right here. Let's try something with the darkest blue, okay? I'll blot it off first, okay? Stamp it down. Look how distant it looks, right? Okay. Now let's do one just in complete blue, you know, without blotting it off. Let's go for another blotted one, you know, farther off in the distance like that. See that? And I tell you what, why don't we keep pushing depth? Let's go with the black one. Let's go with the black one. I usually put it ahead, but see this right here? Near, farther, farthest away, okay? So you're using your color scheme for depth. This is why I always have I used to have my students in my class line up their pads going from light to dark. They color in like that, but then they can use this for depth. This is close, farther, farthest, or further away. Farther away, furthest, okay? Farthest away. All right. So you have that right there within the fish. You could stamp them all out blue. You could stamp them all out black. It would look, you know, good too. But that just gives you a little bit more depth that way. Okay, let's see. We're at the 19-minute mark. This could be done if you want it to be. But let's go in. I had so much fun with this next technique right here. You have your pigment ink, okay? White pigment ink. And I would think most of you have some form of cotton ball at home. I find it works better with the real cotton. I tried an acrylic one yesterday. Kind of worked, a little bit harder, not as easy. It's because the acrylic kind of wicks the moisture a little bit. And I didn't get as soft an application of it, but you can use it. If you don't use it, you can probably just wad up some paper towel like this, okay? And I don't like that texture on this paper towel. You know, it has a little bit of that, you know, texturing on there. And I don't want to get that when I tap it down, so if you only have something like this, smash it down a little bit. Or you can use like a rag or something like that, you know, some kind of like t-shirt cloth or something. Okay, I don't know. I'm talking to crafters here. I'm guessing you have everything. You probably have a lot more than I do. Light beams are going to be coming from this way, okay? So, this is a quarter-page scene, so I don't think I'm going to do too many of them, though, okay? I'm going to mask up like so. And let's ink up here, okay? I'm going to start it at the source of the light, which is kind of above, okay? And then I'll tap it in there pretty good, but then as I come down here, one of the things that isn't apparent in this video, but I'm using a lighter touch, plus I've tapped out a lot of the ink already up here, right? So as I get down here, less is being applied, okay? And I kind of oscillate a little bit. I kind of make my beam a little bit stronger in some parts. Don't have it uniform, I think, you know. I think it looks better like that. It kind of look like a splotchy beam, like light is affecting it in different areas, you know, based on the surface, okay? So see that light beam kind of coming across there? All right? Now just in general, kind of keep it coming from roughly the same area direction, okay? And change the width of it a little bit too, okay? I think that looks better too, to have variety in these beams. The beams wouldn't be uniform, unless you want to just make kind of you're making kind of this graphic statement, you know, where there's this real uniformity to the light beams, okay? Okay, kind of varying it a little bit. I'm hitting it a little bit more here. Let's hit it a little bit more towards the top, though. Okay. All right. Look at that. Isn't that fun? We need like another one over here. Oh, we can make a beam kind of just come down to here, too. It doesn't have to go all the way across all the time, okay? You can kind of make it, make them... I'm kind of aiming this in that direction right there, so I'll get this lined up where I think it looks good, like that, and then I'll create the bottom part of it, like so. So yeah, you can do the beams to different distances too. It doesn't have to be all the way down, you know, across the paper like that, okay? So see this right here? This one I just ended right here, all right? Okay, let's go over here. Maybe like so. This is getting a lot of technique into a scene here that's not going to take very long, but I think it's going to be nice and effective. Okay, so that, and I don't know, maybe another one down here. Let's do a real narrow one, perhaps. Like so. Okay. How does that look? Isn't dramatic, huh? Now, what I like to do is I like to kind of blend those in just a touch from up top. I'll add, lightly dab, some additional white. It would be better if I left kind of more white up there originally, but this is what I was saying. It doesn't really matter because you can kind of go back in and add this in here and it'll lighten up that area anyways. I don't want to make that black up there and have to recover all that. okay? But and then I kind of just hit it here and there within the water. I'll just kind of make it a little bit splotchy. This is one instance where splotchiness is absolutely fine. It kind of looks natural that way. See, I'm kind of hitting it here and there. I'm putting it over some of my fish, over some of my rocks. It just kind of looks like a little bit of light is hitting it. Okay. So we have this. Look at that light in there. Isn't that kind of shimmering in there? Like we would imagine it looking like underwater. Okay, now if you have, I did some splatter painting on mine with some Dr. Martens. I know a lot of people don't have that, but a lot of you have things like gel pens, okay? Well, let's take a look here and see what we can do with the gel pen, okay? Here's what I like to do. I like to kind of follow a beam, and within that beam, see this beam right here, this top one? I'll put some highlights, extra highlights, on the imagery that's kind of coming in contact with that beam, okay? See this leaf down here, kind of following it down this way, and on the tops of some of these rocks, we can put a few little highlights. It's kind of hard to draw on top of pigment ink because it's kind of thick and, you know, it can kind of clog, you know, just briefly your pen, your ballpoint pen, in terms of a gel pen. I use the Meows and paint pens as well. Those work good. Sharpie paint pen, perhaps. Okay, but anyways, you see that on the branches right here. Okay, see that where that light beam comes in contact with that leaf here, top of that leaf. It's on this one too. And let's see. We can put some little highlights on some of these rocks too. It won't stand out too much because it's fairly light. But just absolutely fun. And I'll put a few little things like this. Now, normally when I'm doing scenes, these might represent stars because I often have sky, but these little dots like this, you can make some a little bit larger as well. These little dots like this are just a great textural form to bring visual interest into a given area. And in here, it'd be like oxygen or little bubbles kind of floating to the surface maybe. I guess in an underwater scene, these are really fun because, you know, you don't have to say, okay, let me see, I don't have sky there or a night sky, so why would I put a dot there? But underwater, you know, you can have these little oxygen things kind of floating anywhere you want to. So there's no reason why you can't do these little bubbles like this. Or little dots like this, okay? So let's take a look here. See those little dots right in there? Doesn't that kind of add a nice texture to that area? See down here? These little bubbles coming up. See right over here? I mean, this area is really effective because it's so dark in there, and those really stand out against the background. As long as it's going back in the distance like that, see that kind of textural form? Isn't that fun? I can, you know, what I did on my scene yesterday too was I put a little kind of glistening highlight on some of my fish, you know, where they're catching some of the light like that. They flash, you know. Fish have that kind of metallic look to them, you know. Okay, but anyways, that is a quick scene right there. Look at that, under 30 minutes, okay? And we really utilized a lot of technique in here, okay? We didn't shortchange at all on this one. We have those light beams coming in, which are an additive process, but we got ourselves a good head start with just the retention of those beams by not coloring them all in, okay? You have your depth within a really small amount of space. You have it here in your foliage and kelp forest. Even this little spot in here, you're utilizing lights and darks. And within the structure of the rock seafloor area here with the darker and lighter version of that in the background. So we're just talking about a ton of depth and technique in this one little card right here. And it's the exact type of thing that's going on in larger format. This one, of course, was from yesterday, is using hybrid inks right here. Here it is, dye-based inks on glossy. You can do dye-based inks on glossy on this one. It would just, it would take quite a while. But look at that depth right in there. A little bit more vivid with your dye-based inks, especially the Marvy inks on glossy, okay? But this one's looking pretty good still. This one might have dried a little bit duller than what it looked like yesterday, but a little bit of a different feel because it's on matte. It's a little bit softer and has that kind of, I don't know, atmosphere to it. This one right here, it's a little bit more clear and distinct, and that's what dye-based inks on glossy cardstock do. It gives you super crisp impressions, and it kind of holds the ink on the surface the best in terms of the dye-based inks, okay? Hybrid inks are surface-oriented, but these ones here work by staining, so you get a lot of depth with the use of those gradated tones. Someone was asking about a sunset configuration as far as wanting to do something like that, and I just said pick out a range like this and then line them up going from light to dark, and it's really nothing more than doing something like that and starting off with the process of blending those light colors and working incrementally into the darker colors to give you that strong saturation and glow. Okay, so anyways, I hope you enjoyed doing that with me. If you stamped along with me, I hope you had a great time. If you have any questions, drop me a note in the comment section if you did this scene, and if you feel inclined, email it to me or post it or whatever, and I'd love to see it, okay? All right, thanks for watching.